I will welcome to the Pawtucket School Committee special meeting on August 15th. It's 6:03. Ms. Listy, please take a roll call.
Ms. Bonello. Here. Mr. Knight. Mr. Larby. Here. Mr. Marino. Here. Ms. Doobie.
Here. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on our agenda is public participation. Ms. List, do we have anyone signed up? No. Next item on our agenda is new business discussion action items. This item, allocate up to $750,000 for classroom supplies, office classroom furniture, and staff PSD clothing, was placed on the agenda by Mr. Charbonneau. He was unable to be here because of a family issue, and so is there someone else here who would like to speak to this item? Mr. Knight. It's been a motion to approve the allocation of $750,000 for classroom supplies, office classroom furniture, and staff PSD clothing by Mr. Knight. It was seconded by Ms. Bonello. Any discussion on this? Oh, Ms. Bonello.
Okay, so do you know what it's for? So I was told that it's for an update on chairs. Our maintenance staff, desks, the maintenance staff, so they can actually have the clothing and other supplies within the school. So if anybody knows more than that.
Yeah, so that's it exactly. This is actually to go above and beyond. I know when people see classroom supplies, they think, well, we're required, just provide classroom supplies, and we do. But this is to go above and beyond that. We know that often teachers go and spend funds on their own. And so this is to, provide those above and beyond classroom supplies for teachers, and also, as you said, teacher chairs and the staff PSD logo clothing. And I know Mrs. Devine has been working on gathering some information. So if you'd like to add something to that.
Sure. Good evening. So there has been some reach out about some school cheers and things like that, because we want to ensure that the staff are sitting on, not that they shouldn't be sitting on chairs that are not safe, but again, ergonomically. So we're going to try, we got one sample in, and we're going to try to get another sample, so that way can narrow down so people can have a choice of it. But if I may, in speaking about the PSD clothing, would not only be for maintenance staff, it would be for PSD clothing in the district for whoever. So because the number is a large number, we would need to identify where we're going to allocate it from. And so I would think that would have to be in the motion. Legal counsel, can you advise? It just says to allocate. It doesn't say from where. So somebody needs to determine where they're allocating it from. I would have to assume that it would have to be out of capital. And the second, I don't want to put anybody, I just want to make sure that I make that clear. And then second, if that does occur and the vote does take place, if this could possibly be handled from the building level up, because there is no way to handle this amount of money with all the different orders. It should be managed, site-based management as what, and then reviewed centrally instead of central just taking the full lead. Happy to help in any way, but I think it would be advantageous if the school buildings take the lead in reaching out to what the needs are in their buildings, because I don't know what's in everyone's buildings.
So essentially, instead of just carpeting the district in glue sticks, like you're saying that each teacher would identify the needs for their individual classroom.
So again, if I can ask legal to weigh in, I think if the school committee has a specific purpose, because again, it's pretty broad, classroom supplies, that could be anything from glue sticks to some locked cabinet in a classroom to paper to shelving. And then PSD clothing could come out of John's facilities office. But again, if it's PSD clothing for anybody in the building, then maybe there's some choices and then it handled at the building and then centrally the order could be placed. But as far as the schools, we would just need some input because I wouldn't know how we would handle such a large dollar amount of
they need additional money because they're spending so much out of pocket. That's what my understanding of this is. Now, if I'm wrong, please tell me.
So I just want to make a comment. I think, that you're correct, and that was the general discussion initially. But in thinking about those supplies, extra supplies that do come into a building for teachers, I'm thinking of, okay, where are they going to put them? They might need bookcases, they might need shelving. So I also think that that needs to be incorporated into that. We need to have, to take in all these wonderful supplies is great, but they need to also have a place to be able to put them. So I know thinking from what I've heard teachers say in the past is, it's great, but I need a shelf now, or I need a bookcase, or to store this stuff.
So just to clarify, in my discussions with Mr. Charbonneau about this, when he asked to place it on the agenda, and obviously this committee can do anything they want at this moment with it now that it's on the agenda, but I then spoke with Ms. Devine, and we did speak about, Ms. Devine and I, about just this idea of donors choose exists, where teachers essentially go and they say, I want flexible seating, I want this other material for my classroom that I currently can't get. And that if we had monies available, each individual teacher could go to their building principal and say, here are the items that I've been looking for my classroom that are not, they could be just, notebooks and folders, but I know that I didn't use binders as a teacher, I used folders. So, just kind of doing one big supply purchase of a bunch of folders and giving them all to the teachers, I think it makes more sense, as Ms. Devine said, for it to be a teacher-based decision of what supplies really would benefit me. And then it would just be a matter of, if we're saying allocate up to this amount of money, then the principals would each be allocated based on their staff number, a certain amount of money, and it would be a division problem in my mind. I don't know if that's what other people are thinking, where then each teacher would be told, you have up to $1,000 to order what you wish, and you have till December 30th to put in a wish list. And if you don't, then that money gets returned. But I don't know, that's how I picture this. But like I said, I don't know if that was the original intent, and I don't know if that's the intent of this committee. Mr. Knight, did you want to follow up? Ms. Miller.
Okay, so from capital reserve, yes, to approve up to $750,000 for the outlined reasons, which is the classroom supplies, office classroom furniture, and PSD staff clothing. And he would like the union leadership and the superintendent to work together on a process for distributing the money. And they believe that within that number, they can increase the teacher's reimbursement possibly to $1,000 for supplies.
Ms. Devine.
I may, just so if you put a specific amount on it and not figure out what else is being purchased, because again, it's office classroom furniture plus staff PSD clothing. If you put a specific amount per teacher, then $1,000 for 750 teachers is just the supply. So then it wouldn't allow for furniture. So I don't know that we should label the supply number just yet, because again, there's office and classroom furniture. So there's office furniture too. So it wasn't only meant for just the classroom, and there's also the PSD clothing. So maybe, again, not earmarking a dollar amount and then working on it and maybe bringing, the process back, or just having the union leadership and the superintendent work on that. But wouldn't it be for union, non-union, whoever? Because again, it says office, and not everyone has a classroom. And I think the idea was to allocate up to the dollar amount, from the way I understood it, to affect the entire district. To touch the entire district, if I can say that language, correct?
So each
Equity,
school-
yeah, not only just, classroom, you got office,
Based
you
on the
have
number of
clerks,
students in there and.
you have custodian,
support
yeah.
staff.
Mr.
Support
Larby?
staff.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Larby?
Yeah, I was wondering if it was possible to potentially put in a motion to begin that process and figuring out what the overhead prices are for like the t-shirts, get those estimates so that we are then able to figure out potentially how much money is left over for individual reimbursements. If possible, have that those estimates or numbers for potentially our next meeting or our first meeting in September. And that way we can start to really figure out how does it really break down on an individual level for each school.
We can certainly, if that's the wish of the committee, we can put something like that together. But also, again, if we're going to have it managed at the site by the administrator of the site and bring it up where it needs to be centrally, of course, having approvals. All approvals go through the system when they do any ordering in the district. It goes through, from the teacher's hands to a clerical staff enters, and then the principal approves, and it goes up to the assistant superintendent's office, and then it comes to the business office. So once again, I just want to make sure that we kind of bring it down to site-based management, which is, so that way each school is doing what they need and gathering their own information, and it's not one central area. But yes, if that's what the committee wishes, we can certainly put a number. We can calculate something.
I see multiple questions. I just want to clarify. Could we legally approve the $750,000 from capital reserves for these items? And then at the next meeting, have a discussion action item that we could either revise that, or that we could have a presentation of how the money has been allocated, because other people who might have, wanted to weigh in on this can't be here, and they could kind of say, that wasn't really my intent, and we possibly could. Can we do that, Mr. Attorney Connolly? Can we allocate the money and then have it as a discussion action item at the next meeting?
Yes, so the item is allocate up to $750,000.
Mhm.
So the committee can approve the item that is allocated up to $750,000 for the listed items, but require the administration to come back to the committee with the suggested items for specific allocations.
Mr. Marino, I saw Mr. Knight, and I saw Ms. Miller.
So should we approve this item today? Are we, so are the classroom teachers able to act on this soon? Prior to the first day of us.
So some of the items on here, such as classroom furniture, some of the lead time on those things could be 2 months, 3 months out, depending. Especially clothing. Clothing would have to either, we would have to look at our contract with our existing vendor if we're allowed to expand it, because I think some of the items that were possibly thought of was, some winter gear for maintenance. So if we can expand it on the existing contract, even that would probably take, John, what's the lead time you think on ordering specific, clothing for maintenance or even custodials for the winter months? That could take like 4 to 6 weeks, right?
If it's jacket related, it would be a little bit longer.
Yeah, so some of the items could be beyond the first day of school. Other items, if it were WB Mason, by the time you gather everything together, since we're, the middle of the month, it still may not be here day one. So I think, if this committee does approve this and approves it with coming back with a plan at either the next meeting or the first meeting in September, it would be early enough in school for people to have that in their classrooms or offices or wherever that may be. Because lead times, any given day changes. So today the chair could be 2 weeks out, tomorrow it could be 6 weeks out, and then 6 weeks will come up and they have a ton available, but then everybody buys them up and then it could be another 4 weeks. So I don't think that by the time you put everything out there and get everybody's ideas and have each school, and that's what takes a long time. They have to look up item numbers, they have to get pricing, we have to get multiple quotes if it's from a vendor that's not WB Mason. If they're buying supplies just from WB Mason, we have a contract already. So it all depends on what the plan is, what each building would do. So I think that if we just said, hey, everybody can get something and it's from WB Mason, chances are a lot of their items could be in before school, but if somebody wants office chairs and somebody the clothing, that's all going to be lead time, bidding, quoting, all of that stuff takes time. And that's why I had recommended to the school committee to have it handled at the building level so that they do the individual work. They can put their own POs in, but everything would get approved and coming up through the automated system with the quotes, the multiple quotes that meet the guidelines of purchasing. Does that make sense?
So, yeah, yes. And so you're saying that a specific motion to have this be site-based as opposed to central office-based?
Well, it would be nice if you did it that way, but again, if that's the intent, if the school committee is okay with that, I just don't want it to say 750 and then we certainly can develop a plan like Mr. Lobby had asked about, and then you had mentioned about coming back to the next meeting with the plan. You allocate the money and then coming back with a plan on what we're going to do. We certainly can put something like that together, but it definitely is a lot of work to get quoting and bidding and all of that stuff. It should be site-based management. And besides, our state laws say that we're supposed to be having some site-based management. We know that everything is not site-based management, but if this is going to be a way to get every individual school, their individual staff to contribute to what they need, sort of like a wish list, then it should come and be managed at the school and then brought up centrally.
Mr. Knight?
I believe that what was meant by this is, first of all, I thought it was coming out of the excess ESSA funds we have. And I think what was meant by this is to allow our teachers not to have to spend hundreds of dollars out of their own pockets for supplies. Now, that being said, chairs and stuff like that is the district. That's the district's responsibility. This money be allocated because I believe in the contract, they've got 3 months to submit it by December 31st. When's it by, Ron?
We have 2 opportunities. Thank you. We have 2 opportunities to submit on materials reimbursement, January the 15th or May the 15th.
Okay.
We get $300 for consumable supplies for students, direct use for students. Furniture is not included in that.
That's right.
I can tell you, just thank you for indulging. It is now August the 15th. The majority of us have already spent that $300. I can tell you out of pocket right now, I'm about just under $1,000 for my classroom.
I believe that's what it was originally placed on the agenda for. And that's what I'd like to see it go to. Forget about furniture and everything else. Those are wish lists. We can fill them later. Up to the 750,000 is what Mr. Charbonneau wanted to put on the agenda. I can't speak for him, but I can tell you that that's what I understood him to mean. Now, I made a motion to approve the up to the 750,000 for supplies. That was meant for supplies and the janitors and custodians and maintenance staff clothing. That's a whole nother thing than buying bookshelves, cabinets, chairs, and everything else in creation. That can be done. That's It's not a problem, but that's not what this money is supposed to be from.
So the current motion is to approve up to $750,000 for classroom supplies, office classroom furniture, and staff PSD clothing. That was the motion that was made first.
Was that from Mr. Charbonneau?
No, that was from you. So that's
And that
the,
isn't what the motion I made was. I never mentioned office furniture. Never mentioned office furniture.
Office classroom, PSD clothing.
so I'm sorry, I just read out the item and you said motion to approve, so I assumed it was to approve the item as listed. So you would like to amend your motion? To not read what the agenda says, but to read just, so
The agenda was, I misread the agenda unless I didn't get the last, that's only the first page. Oh, okay. What do I know?
this is as Mr. Charbonneau asked to place it on the
Okay,
agenda.
I'll go with that then.
Okay. Ms. Manolo?
So we have a couple of things that I'd like to amend the motion to say approve up to $750,000 from capital reserve to share equitably to all schools for the purpose of staffing supply needs, and building supply upgrades. And that should cover everything.
There's a motion to amend by Ms. Manolo. There's a second. A discussion on the amendment. Mr. Knight.
Why are we taking money out of the capital reserve?
Ms. Devine, can you please explain what funding sources we would have available to us currently with the budget or?
So the capital reserve, again, I can't speak to ESSER. I know that we've submitted the ESSER would have to be amended if you were going to use ESSER, but I believe ESSER is submitted up to the max, correct? We've submitted a plan. You could cut some things out of the local, which is being done next week, and you can put it in there. I don't know that we'd find 750, but that would have to be up to the school committee if they want to do that.
Is it anticipated at the next meeting that we'll be transferring money into capital? I mean, when we get the budget, like
No, so the budget would just be a budget revision,
Okay.
based on, some additional information. There's no changes to the bottom line, but like we had some move arounds in the budget.
Okay,
and
just checking.
From the positions that changed, and we had some adds and reductions.
Okay.
The job assignment process, created some changes, and that's what we always take it back for in August or so. So yeah, I mean, again, it would just be identified where we would get the funding. I don't know of some other funding sources or grants that would cover clothing and supplies and things like that. I mean, ESSER could have, but I think it's already been spoken for as it is approved right now, correct? Superintendent? It could be amended but again, I don't know what's in there that you would remove.
Mr. Knight.
If we take the money out of the capital reserve fund, we're taking money from our reimbursements, projects, shovel-ready projects, stuff like that, aren't we?
So again, we have been putting a number of dollars into the, number of surpluses through the years. And we also transferred some funds to buy computers and whiteboards and things like that. So it's not it's not like you haven't done this stuff before to use it. So you're not, okay, capital reserve is meant to do improvements, but there's nothing that says, and legal can weigh in on this, there's nothing that says that the school committee can take some of those funds and earmark them for another purpose for school-related use.
Mr. Knight.
I'm not in favor of taking this money out of the capital reserve fund. I think we should just allocate the money at this time. And if it comes down to in the future, we take it from the capital reserve fund, cost of doing business. But I want us to be able to do our repairs to our buildings that we've got planned right now. And we're gonna need that money. So I will not be supporting taking it out of the capital reserve fund.
Ms. Devine?
So if I may ask legal question, if we allocate it, would we need a funding source to allocate it? We can't act on anything without a funding source, correct?
We're taking it out of your salary.
Thanks.
So there's a current amendment on the table to take the money from capital in order to allocate, I'm sorry, Ms. Ms. Liz- yeah.
Equitably to all schools for the purpose of staffing supplies and building supply upgrades.
Okay, that is the current amendment.
No clothing and no furniture, right?
No, that's in staffing and.
Well, supplies in the UCOA, supplies are different than furniture and equipment. I just want to, because
Ms.
again,
Manolo, so Ms. Manolo is going to withdraw the motion currently, the current amendment to the motion, and read it back again.
Approve up to $750K from capital reserve to share equitably to all schools for the purpose of employee clothing, staffing needs, and building supply upgrades.
There's an amended motion on the table from Ms. Manolo. Is there a second? Is there a second on the motion before we get to the objections? Okay, there's a second. Okay. Mr. Knight.
The motion in its current form means that all staff would be able to get uniform money or clothing money. We can't afford that.
Ms. Manolo, is that your intent that we?
No, it's up to $750,000.
But who are the employees eligible to get clothing money?
Well, it has to be shared equitably.
With who?
Mr. Knight, Ms. Manolo, can you just explain your motion, and are you comfortable with the motion that the money would be equitably distributed between the buildings and it would be allocated for these variety of items?
Yes.
Okay, that is the motion on the table. We don't have to approve it, but the motion is on the table. It's been seconded. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Mr. Larby?
Just a quick question. So I know with this motion, I think the one thing that's missing from the original agenda item is furniture. And I guess, I don't know if I can pose this question to teachers or any union leadership in the building today. But I do wonder if furniture and chairs, is that something that is highly sought out and part of potential staff needs?
A faculty chair, and then just furniture for the classroom.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Well, it said building supply needs. I figured that would encompass
okay, just say the furniture if you want, if that's what you need.
I think Ms. Devine has said that supplies and
Building
furniture.
supply and furniture needs.
Thank you.
Yes, okay.
Sorry, I'm being so technical because you
That's okay.
color is specific.
Okay. Building supplies and furniture needs equitably distributed. Ms. List, we okay here? It was listed.
It's in there.
It was listed. Okay.
That is going to call for union negotiation.
There is a vote on the table. There is a motion on the
That is
table.
out of order until it's been discussed with the union and how much each teacher is going to get. That is what is proper. Just allocating money without it being in a contract, you own it next year.
Okay.
You can't do that.
Mr. Moreno.
So I just wanted to even here just on thank Mr. Chabot for bringing the item forward.
Okay. There's an amended motion on the table. It's been seconded. Ms. Lucy, please call the roll.
Ms. Finola?
Yes. Excuse me. I object to it. It's modifying contract.
Okay,
It's out of order.
you may vote no if you
There's
wish.
an attorney right there, I'll tell you.
Do you have any concerns with this motion?
No, the challenge, or under Sturgis, a challenge to the ruling of the chair essentially needs a second and then a vote from the committee to challenge the ruling of the chair. So there's an objection based on out of order. The chair has, by going forward, the chair is ruling that the motion is in order. Under Sturgis, you need a challenge, that needs a second, and then it goes to a vote. There's no discussion on it. But it would need a second in order for the committee to overrule the chair.
Do you have any legal concerns with this motion as it stands?
I do not.
Thank you. Ms. Lucy, please call the roll. Sorry, did we already start? Mr. Knight?
You're changing a union contract. You can't do that without negotiation. You cannot unilaterally change the terms of their agreement or anyone's agreement without negotiation.
I will not unilaterally do it, but if this committee votes in favor of
This
this
committee
motion,
cannot do that.
okay,
By labor law, you can't do that.
Ms. Lucy, please call the roll on the vote.
Ms. Finola? Yes. Mr. Knight?
No.
Mr. Larby?
Yes.
Mr. Marino? Ms. Doobie?
Yes, the motion carries 4-1. Oh, I'm sorry, the amended. Okay, that was the amendment. The original motion as amended is now on the table. I see no hands. Ms. Lucy, please call the roll.
Ms. Finola? Yes. Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Larby?
Yes.
Mr. Marino? Ms. Doobie?
Yes, motion carries 5-0. Okay, the next item is recommendation to award for Baldwin Elementary School temporary fence. Hi,
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see everyone again. The first of the two RTAs that I have in front of you is for temporary fencing. This is per SDS spec 329000, RTA 1 for temporary fencing. As this group is aware, we are preparing to abate and demolish the old Elizabeth Baldwin Elementary School to make room for a new state-of-the-art elementary school there on Whitman Street. Prior to do so, we would like to secure the site. This will keep the general public out of the construction area, make it much more safe and reduce the liability of the district to anybody entering that site. Shawmut Design and Construction, who's represented by Mr. Gordon Zanel behind me today, did go out for multiple bids for this work. It's our recommendation that we select Union Fence of Johnson, Rhode Island for $91,400. This is a union company. Happy to take any questions.
then a motion to approve by Ms. Finola, it's been seconded by Mr. Larby. Any discussion? Ms. Lucy, please take a roll call.
Ms. Finola? Yes. Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Larby?
Yes.
Mr. Marino?
Yes.
Ms. Doobie?
Yes, the motion carries 5-0. And the next item is the recommendation to award for Baldwin Elementary School site enabling.
Thank you again. This is in regards to the Baldwin Elementary School project. This RTA would be for site enabling services such as utility cutoff, repairing the site, putting in erosion control measures, that sort of thing, complying with DEM requirements. We reached out to Shawmut Design and Construction, reached out to multiple vendors on this job. The selected vendor was DeFazio Site Corporation of Johnson, Rhode Island, at $182,756. You will note that the price of $182,756 is different than the proposal that was submitted by DeFazio.
Mhm.
The reason for that is that Shawmut thoroughly descopes every one of the vendors to make sure that they're carrying every cost that's needed as part of that scope to protect the district against future change orders. You will see on pages 3 and 4 of the packet that I sent you that DeFazio did carry everything with the exception of item 41, whereas the other vendors did not seem to carry a lot of this, so they worked out the pricing with them in negotiations. And that's why the price differs from what was submitted to what we're recommending approval for today. Any questions?
Second.
The motion approved by Ms. Manola has been seconded by Mr. Marino. Any discussion on this item or questions? Ms. Listy, please take a roll call.
Ms. Finola? Yes. Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Larby?
Yes.
Mr. Marino? Ms. Doobie?
Yes, the motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Starting Wednesday.
Yes, and just a reminder that we will have that Colliers Winters visit on the Friday after our next school committee meeting, which is the 26th, which we'll be communicating with Colliers about as well. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to convene an executive session for discussion and action regarding the employment contract between the Pawtucket School Committee and Dr. Charlotte Williams, Superintendent of Schools, seal executive session minutes, and adjourn the executive session. Then a motion to table by Ms. Bonolo. It's been seconded by Mr. Larby. Ms. Listy, please call the roll.
Ms. Finola?
Yes.
Mr. Knight?
Yes.
Mr. Larby?
Yes.
Mr. Marino?
Yes.